Hello. So this video is going to focus on learning how to show illusions of depth and distance with size relationships. So to start off and kind of introduce this, I'm using a similar handout that I've used before. This is a handout from artclasscurator.com, and she talks about using the element of space in an artwork. So space is how an artwork uses or depicts depth or distance. And one way we can create an illusion of depth and distance and make it look like we have space in an artwork and in a painting is by varying the size relationships of things in each of the three layers of space. So we have three layers of space. We have a background, middle ground, foreground. The background is all of the things farthest away from you, typically located at the top of the page. Your foreground is all of the things closest to you, typically located in the bottom of the page. And then the middle ground is in between the background and the foreground. So you can use a technique of overlapping where have some things kind of painted on top of the things behind them. So things in front that appear closer will partially cover things that are behind that are to appear a little bit further away. And when we create our painting today, the other thing we're going to take a look at is size. Okay, so you need to paint the exact same thing. So in this case, she has birds. And then as the birds appear to be further away, their size will get smaller. So things farthest away from you will appear smaller. Things closest to you will appear bigger. I find that this is probably one of the easiest concepts for students to get because it's the most straightforward. You want something to look far away, you make it really tiny. You want something to appear to be closer, you paint it much bigger. Okay, so at this point, if you have not already opened your instruction sheet, make sure you've opened the instruction sheet and double check your list of materials and gather all your materials. You are going to want like a folder or scrap paper, something that you can surface to tape your painting to. You will need a 4x6 sheet of watercolor paper, the white thicker masking tape so that you can tape down all four sides of your paper. Do make sure that you have a set of watercolor paints. You want to make sure that you have a cup of water, paintbrushes, and then you're also going to want a towel to blot your paintbrush out, a towel or a paper towel. So, to save some time in the video and make this video much shorter for you, I went ahead and taped the four sides of my painting down, and I went ahead and created a graded wash. I wanted this to kind of look like a sky at sunset, so I have a red at the top and a yellow near the bottom, and I went ahead and painted this and let this dry. So once you have decided, you got to decide what you want to paint. Okay, so this is the part where, you're welcome to paint exactly what I paint and follow my demonstration. But I would encourage you to think about what's something that you can come up with that's a little bit more creative. And then whatever it is that you decide that you are going to paint, you need to make sure that you paint it 3 times and paint it really small in the background and much bigger in the foreground. So I'm going to imagine that this is just just a sky at sunset. I'm not going to have like any land or ground in this. I think I'm going to paint some hot air balloons. So I'm just going to do like a simple silhouette. Okay, I'm not going to include a lot of details, anything. And so up here in the distance, I'm going to start with a small paintbrush. And I am going to paint a tiny balloon. Okay, so since it's sunset, my little painting will appear to be, everything will kind of be backlit so I can use some like really dark values. One thing that I've done is I've kind of flattened my paintbrush, and then that will let me get really itty bitty teeny details. So if I want to create like the strings for my little hot air balloon basket. And then I'm going to paint the bottom of it down here. And then maybe make that top part just a little bit bigger. Okay, and now I need to paint the exact same thing just a little bit bigger so I can paint that wherever I want. Okay, and make this shape. So to really hammer home the idea that we are varying with size, I would encourage you to try to paint each of these objects exactly the same way. Okay, don't necessarily need to create like any more details. Okay, but paint them exactly the same way, and then do make sure that as you get more detailed, or not more detailed, as you get closer, they definitely get much bigger. Okay, so there's my second one. And then now when I paint this final one, I'm going to make it much bigger. So again, filling that in. You may want to switch over to a bigger paintbrush as you are painting the object bigger. It may make it a little bit more efficient use of your time rather than trying to fill everything in with a itty bitty tiny paintbrush. You also can kind of make it go a little bit faster once you kind of create that outline, is add a little bit more water, fill that in a little bit better. And then I'm going to adjust my shape because again, want to make sure that I try to make those shapes look the same as much as possible. So maybe kind of that one out a little bit. And that's it. Okay, this painting doesn't have to be like super detailed or anything like that. Just make sure you are, whatever it is you choose to paint, make the thing that you want to be closest to you the biggest. Make the object that you want to be farthest away the smallest. And I'm going to add one more little detail. I'll make it look like we got a little person. Okay, so there's his little head, or hers. Got a little person in our head air balloon. And then just tiny little speck back there. So if I really wanted to make it look like I've got this a lot smaller, you can add more. You don't have to necessarily only stick with 3. So if you really want to go all out and really go crazy, add multiple layers. Maybe I want to do like an itty bitty teeny tiny one all the way off here in the distance. Okay, so creating depth and distance with size. Make sure things that you want to be appearing farthest away are the smallest. Make sure things that you want to be closest to you are the biggest. And then keep in mind your layers of space. Okay. Oftentimes, things that are in the background typically are higher on the page. Things that are in the foreground are typically lower on the page. And then things that are in the middle ground are halfway in between. So that is how you create depth and distance using size.